Emily stood at the bakery counter, her fingers nervously tracing the frayed edges of her worn wallet. The smell of freshly baked bread and frosting filled the air, wrapping around her like a cruel reminder of what she couldn't afford. The glass display gleamed with bright, colorful cakes, each one more beautiful than the last. Her son, Noah, stood beside her, his little face pressed against the counter as he admired a chocolate cake topped with green frosting dinosaurs. His eyes sparkled. "Mommy, that one. That's the one I want," he said, grinning from ear to ear. Emily smiled faintly, trying to match his excitement. "It's perfect, sweetheart," she replied softly. "Let's see how much it costs." The cashier, a kind-looking woman in her 40s, rang up the order. "That'll be $48.75, she said cheerfully. For a moment, Emily froze. Her chest tightened as the numbers echoed in her mind. $48. That was half of what she had left until payday. She thought of the stack of unpaid bills on her kitchen table, the notice from her landlord about the rent due next week, and the phone call from the mechanic telling her the car repairs would cost more than she could manage. She'd been holding it together for so long, but right now, the weight of it all pressed down hard. "Ma'am," the cashier asked gently. Emily blinked, forcing a shaky smile. I'm sorry. I can't get it today," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can you cancel the order, please?" Noah turned to her, confusion clouding his innocent face. "But, Mommy, it's my birthday cake." Her throat tightened. She knelt beside him, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. "I know, baby," she murmured, fighting to keep her voice steady. "We'll make cupcakes at home. Just like last year, remember?" Noah nodded slowly, but his smile was gone. He reached for her hand as they turned to leave. Emily kept her head down, embarrassed by the pitying look the cashier gave her. The bell above the bakery door chimed softly as they stepped outside into the crisp autumn air. Behind them, a tall man who had been standing quietly in line lowered his phone and looked toward the door. He'd heard every word. His name was Ethan Cole, a billionaire entrepreneur, known in business circles for his sharp instincts and ruthless efficiency. But as he watched the single mother walk away with her son, something in his chest twisted unexpectedly. He'd come to the bakery that morning to pick up an elaborate cake for a charity gala, not to witness heartbreak. Yet the image of the little boy holding his mother's hand, trying not to cry, struck him harder than he could explain. As the cashier boxed up his order, Ethan's thoughts drifted back to his own childhood, a small apartment, a single mother working 3 jobs, a store clerk shaking her head when she came up short. He clenched his jaw, realizing he couldn't just walk away. Not this time. Something inside him whispered, "Do something." Ethan couldn't get the image of the little boy's face out of his mind. All day, through meetings, phone calls, and the endless stream of business reports his assistant handed him, that moment at the bakery kept replaying. The way the woman's voice trembled. The way the boy tried so hard not to look disappointed. It gnawed at him, because once upon a time, he had been that boy. By evening, he found himself driving back toward the bakery. The streetlights glowed softly, and the bakery's neon sign flickered, "Open," in pale pink. The owner, Mrs. Keller, was wiping down the counter when he stepped inside. She looked up in surprise as Ethan removed his cap. "Mr. Cole, you're back. Did something happen with your order?" "Not exactly," Ethan said, leaning on the counter. "I wanted to ask about the woman who canceled her son's cake this morning. The one with the little boy." Mrs. Keller sighed softly, recognizing the concern in his tone. "Ah, Emily and Noah," she said. "They come in every year before his birthday. She always tries to get him something special, but life's been hard for her. Works double shifts at the diner. Her husband left when the boy was 2. She does everything on her own." Ethan nodded slowly. "Do you happen to know where he goes to school?" Mrs. Keller hesitated, then smiled when she saw the sincerity in his eyes. "Brightwood Elementary. Just a few blocks down." "But Mr. Cole, why do you ask?" He gave a small, warm smile. "Let's just say I'd like to make sure that boy gets his birthday wish." The next morning, Brightwood Elementary was buzzing with activity. Balloons of green and blue filled the school cafeteria, and a giant dinosaur-shaped cake, an exact replica of the one Noah had wanted, sat proudly in the center of a long table. Teachers whispered in astonishment, trying to guess who had arranged such a surprise. When Emily received the call from the school office asking her to come immediately, her heart dropped. She rushed there still wearing her diner apron, her mind spiraling through every worst-case scenario. Had Noah gotten hurt? Was he in trouble? But the moment she walked into the cafeteria, she froze. Children's laughter filled the room. Surprise! The class shouted. Noah stood in the middle, his eyes wide with pure joy. His name was written in bright frosting across the cake, surrounded by little fondant dinosaurs. He looked at his mother and beamed. Mom, look, it's my cake. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. Her eyes welled with tears as she took in the decorations, the balloons, the teachers smiling kindly, and then she saw him. Ethan stood near the back of the room, dressed casually in a gray sweater, a soft smile on his face. She walked toward him slowly, still in shock. Did you do all this? She whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan shrugged modestly. Every kid deserves a birthday to remember, he said gently. Tears spilled down her cheeks. But you don't even know us. Why would you? Because I once knew what it felt like to wish for something simple, Ethan interrupted softly. And have someone make it come true. For the first time in years, Emily felt seen, not as a struggling mother, but as someone worth helping. And for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt something money could never buy, peace. Ethan knelt down so he was eye level with Noah, who was still staring at the cake as if afraid it might vanish. Do you like it? He asked with a smile. Noah nodded eagerly, his little hands covered in green frosting. It's the best cake ever. Thank you, mister, he said, his voice bursting with excitement. The sincerity in his eyes hit Ethan harder than any business victory ever had. For the first time in years, someone was thanking him not for a deal, not for a donation in his company's name, but for something real. Your mom tells me you love dinosaurs, Ethan said, chuckling. Well, this T-Rex looks like it could eat half the class. Noah laughed, and so did the teachers and kids nearby. Emily stood back, wiping her eyes, overwhelmed by the kindness of this stranger who had somehow turned her son's disappointment into joy. As the birthday song began, Ethan watched the little boy close his eyes and blow out the candles. He didn't know what Noah had wished for, but in that moment, Ethan silently made his own wish, to never forget what truly mattered. When the last crumbs were eaten and the kids ran off to play, Emily finally found the courage to approach him again. Her voice trembled. You didn't have to do this. I don't even know how to thank you. Ethan turned to her, his expression soft but thoughtful. Maybe I did have to, he said. When I was a kid, my mom worked 3 jobs just to keep a roof over our heads. We didn't have much, but she never let me feel poor. Someone once helped us when I thought no one would. I guess today was my turn to do the same. Emily's eyes glistened. I wish more people thought like you. He smiled faintly. Kindness doesn't have to be grand, it just has to be real. They stood in silence for a moment, watching Noah laugh with his friends. The sound filled the cafeteria like music, echoing in Ethan's heart. For years, his life had revolved around numbers, contracts, and power. But here, in a simple school cafeteria with balloons and frosting on the floor, he'd found something worth far more than all his wealth combined, connection. Before he left, Ethan quietly spoke with the school principal. He arranged for an anonymous donation to fund birthday celebrations for underprivileged kids throughout the year. No one would know his name, just that someone cared. When Emily learned later that every child at Brightwood Elementary would have their birthday celebrated, she cried again. She never told Noah who the mysterious benefactor was, but she noticed how her son started helping others more, sharing snacks, offering hugs, and always saying, maybe someone just needs a little help. Years later, Noah would tell that story to his own children, not as a tale about a billionaire, but as a reminder that one small act of kindness could change an entire life. And for Ethan, who continued to quietly visit the bakery every year, that single mother and her son would remain the reason he believed that sometimes, the richest people are the ones who choose to give, not to impress, but to heal.